Hey guys, this is Salty. Welcome to the video. 2 weeks ago, I reached the maximum obtainable eye level for Season 2 on my Hunter with at least 3 months remaining until the release of Season 3. With the introduction of the Augment Evoker and the current meta composition being locked in, I've also effectively pushed as far as I can with my Mythic Plus rating. I've had a lot of fun so far, and I thought it would be a good time for me to reflect upon the current state of retail World of Warcraft and to give you guys my take on the latest expansion, Dragonflight. Just for reference, I've been playing WoW for almost 20 years at all levels of competitive and semi-hardcore PvE, and I've been playing Dragonflight consistently since release. I'll be going over what I like, what I dislike, and where I think improvements can be made. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Okay, so let's get into it. At the start of the expansion, Blizzard released a schedule for the release of Dragonflight's major and minor content patches, and whilst I appreciate the schedule, I think that the minor content patches have been pretty lackluster, and the time between seasons and new raids is just too long. The minor content patches mainly focus on catch-up mechanics and gearing options for alts, which is great, but if you're the type of player who focuses on just one main character, then there is very little on offer in terms of character progression. There are plenty of little bits and pieces of interest and some new quests, etc. And I think it's great that Blizzard is making an effort to provide more single-player and casual-friendly content, because let's face it, not everyone likes raiding and running keys. As I mentioned, the major content patches are still spread about 6 months apart, and it just feels way too long. I understand that everyone consumes content differently, and that's completely fine, but if you play at a reasonably consistent pace, then you'll find yourself just raid logging very quickly. I think that about 4 months between seasons and new raids would be ideal. We all pay a sub. I don't think 4 major content patches over 12 months is too much to ask for, but that's just my opinion. I think that the first 2 raids of Dragonflight, Vault of the Incarnates and Aberrus the Shadowed Crucible, were really well done, with my only criticism being that Aberrus felt significantly easier and shorter than previous raids. My friends and I are for the most part previous cutting edge players who no longer push Mythic, and we ended up achieving our AOTC in Heroic Aberrus about 3 to 4 weeks earlier than usual. I do have a theory on this, that it was intentional by Blizzard because they wanted people to finish quickly and push them on to Diablo 4. Purely tinfoil hat speculation here, guys, but that's what I would do if I was Bobby Kotick, and perhaps it's because I purely raid and run Mythic Plus, but again, I would like to see more frequent raid content. I would also love to see the introduction of smaller, maybe 10 to 15 man raids, perhaps released with minor content patches. Yes, I'm probably already asking for quite a lot at this stage of the video, but can you imagine new raids every 4 months and a new 10-man raid every 2 months? That would be ideal. I'd absolutely love it. Mythic Plus has been a blast as always. It is hands down my favorite WoW content. Due to scheduling issues with friends, I tend to just pug my keys by myself and push as high as I can every season. I've found that as long as I stay on top of my gear and Mythic Plus rating, it isn't too difficult to find groups as a non-meta BM hunter. This did change, however, as I mentioned earlier, once the augmentation evokers became essentially mandatory for higher level keys, and that one precious spot reserved for a Lust class was taken. I can't really even blame augmentation evokers. This happens every season once the meta is firmly established, and it becomes almost impossible to find groups to push high keys if you play a non-meta class. I understand that there will always be a meta composition for Mythic Plus, but I am hopeful that with release of more support roles that this may change. I could envision having one support which favors a melee composition, for example, and another which favors a ranged composition. This may just be wishful thinking, but I think the potential of a new class archetype is almost unlimited. And yes, as mentioned, we have the new race and class combo, the Drakthir Evokers, and if I'm being completely honest, I really dislike how they look. Sure, not a huge deal, but I really think that Blizzard missed out on an opportunity to make the new playable Dragonkin race look way more epic and monstrous. I mean, some of the humanoid Dragonkin enemies you'll encounter throughout the Dragon Isles look far better in my opinion, so I have to wonder why they decided to make the Drakthir look so weak and unimpressive. Nonetheless, I have enjoyed trying all 3 of the Evoker specializations, especially the support class spec augmentation. WoW has, until now, adhered to that traditional MMORPG golden triad of tank, healer, and DPS, so I think it's great to see them trying something new and adding a support role like other popular MMORPGs before them. I am really looking forward to seeing what other support specializations they add in the future. As far as crafting goes, I'm not a huge fan of the new system. I found it convoluted and annoying to get into. I crafted 8 447s this season, season, and all of them via work orders. I'm sure I could have saved quite a lot of gold by maxing out my professions myself and gathering all my own materials. So yeah, staying on top of my crafting was extremely expensive. In fact, I would say that if you wanted to stay on top of your gear without crafting and gathering yourself, then you either need a lot of gold or a lot of real life money to buy WoW tokens. I'd estimate I would have spent at least 400,000 gold this season on crafting alone, maybe more. And it was pretty much mandatory if I wanted to stay competitive for Mythic Plus without being a Mythic Raider. Perhaps I was just impatient, or maybe I just found it boring, but I think Blizzard needs to evaluate the crafting system once again. For the most part, I think Dragonflight is a really solid expansion. I've had a lot of fun. There are problems, sure, but at least Blizzard are listening to the community now instead of just telling us what we want. I understand the game will never feel the way it did when I first started playing vanilla back in 2004, and that's fine. It doesn't need to. The video game landscape as well as player expectations have changed significantly since then, and that's not a bad thing either. I will always be able to reflect back fondly on my Warriors' first ever epic, the Tier 2 Helm of Wrath from Onyxia, and the hours upon hours of progression every night for server first kills, especially our first Cthulhu. That was so huge at the time. As always, I look forward to seeing what Blizzard comes up with next. Alright, so that's about it, guys. If you've made it to the end, thank you for sticking around. Please let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'd love to hear it. Anyway, my name is Salty, and I will catch you next time, guys. Cheers.